My husband secretly moved his paralyzed mother into our home without telling me. I had no choice but to quit my job and dutifully care for her. But just before she died, she mustered all her strength to stab me in the heart with a fruit knife. Also, my husband could become a widower and marry his mistress. When I opened my eyes again, my husband was gaslighting me. My mother has had a hard life. Now that she's immobile, it's our duty to take care of her. I immediately packed my bags and got the hell out of there. Sorry about that. Every grievance has its source, every debt its debtor. If it's your mother who's had it hard, then it's on you to make it right. Xian, could you tidy up the spare bedroom? Mom and I will be there in about an hour. My husband's brief message sent a chill down my spine, because I had been reborn. I was reborn on the very day my husband was bringing his mother to live with us, that bastard Zhou Hongwei. Just like in my past life, was afraid I'd say no, so he went ahead and did it first, only giving me this token call when they were practically at my doorstep. When I didn't respond, he even tried to guilt-trip me. Xian, my mom has had a hard life, could you please? I didn't let him finish. I hung up the phone cleanly. Ugh, that selfish jerk, outsourcing his filial duties. He brought his mother to live with us under the guise of filial piety, but in reality, all the labor fell on me. His wife, he gets all the credit for being a good son, while I'm left with all the grunt work. In our past life, while I was cleaning up after his mother's mess, he was napping on the couch. He'd wake up only to complain that I didn't clean well enough and that the place smelled. If I get another chance, it's his turn to deal with his mother's dirty work. I took a deep breath to calm myself down, quickly packing my things while calling my dad on the phone. That's right, I'm getting out of here. And I'm taking my daughter with me. My mother-in-law favors boys over girls. She was upset that I had a daughter and didn't even come to see me once during my postpartum confinement. My daughter is 4 years old now. Her grandmother has never looked after her for a single day, and she was even too stingy to give her a red envelope during the new year when we visited back home. My husband has a younger brother who had twin boys, and my mother-in-law dotes on them like they're her greatest treasures. The reason my mother-in-law is now paralyzed is that she was in a car accident while picking the twins up from school, but my husband has been lying to me, saying she just had a bad fall, all because he was afraid I'd find out about the 1 million yuan accident compensation. His brother's family took the lion's share of that money, and yet after just a few days of looking after their mother, they washed their hands of the whole responsibility. My husband is obsessed with saving face. His younger brother just buttered him up a bit, and he got carried away and decided to take on the responsibility of caring for his mother. At first, he did discuss it with me, and of course, I was completely against the idea. When we got married, his parents didn't contribute a single penny. They even had the nerve to say that since their eldest son graduated from a top university and was capable, and since he married an only child from a city family who would have her father's support, the financial pressure on them wasn't great. But their younger son stayed in a small town, with little education and no prospects, so he needed the family's support more. My clueless husband absolutely revels in his family's high opinion of him, but he never stands up for me or our daughter. But my objections couldn't break his stubbornness. He went behind my back and quietly went to bring them over. Too bad for him. When he walks through that door, he'll find his free live-in maid is gone. He can practice his filial piety himself. Just as I finished packing our things, my dad pulled up downstairs. I left the home I'd lived in for 5 years, dragging 2 large suitcases and holding my daughter's hand. I'm grateful to my parents. Without asking a single question, they unconditionally had my back, which gave me the strength to make a clean break from that mother and son. My husband called 3 times in a row, probably after he got home and realized I was gone. I answered the phone, taking my sweet time. His voice was filled with genuine urgency. Xian, why aren't you home? Mom's already here. Oh, I replied calmly, that's your mom. Since you brought her over, you take good care of her. I've taken our daughter back to my parents' place. It'll free up some room for her. My husband was stunned. So, when are you coming back? I'll come back when your mom has recovered. No, it's her spine. Mom's paralyzed for life. My husband exclaimed in disbelief, his voice rising. Oh, that's going to be tough on you, I said with a hint of schadenfreude. You take care of your mom, I'll take care of our daughter. Clear division of labor. Sounds perfectly fair to me. She's your mother-in-law, you have a duty to come back and look after her too, he retorted, growing more agitated. Look who's talking, I shot back sarcastically. She's our daughter, and you haven't changed a single diaper for her. My husband was at a loss for words and said in disappointment, Yang Yishuan, I just realized how selfish you are. My mother raised me all these years, and now when she needs someone the most, how can you just turn your back on her? I couldn't help but laugh. so you do know she raised you, not me, and certainly not my daughter. What gives you the right to demand that I fulfill your filial duties? How did you become so cold-hearted? Humph, I sneered inwardly. In my past life, I was full of devotion. Day after day, I tirelessly helped my mother-in-law with her baths and massages, all while enduring the unpredictable moods of an elderly, disabled woman. She never liked me to begin with, and after becoming paralyzed, her mind grew even darker. She found fault with everything I did. I kept enduring and yielding, but in the end, all I got in return was the cold steel of a blade piercing my body. To this day, I can still feel that sharp, stabbing pain in my chest, but what hurt even more was the betrayal, being wronged, betrayed, and having my life taken by a family member I never thought to guard against. So, in this life, I'm going to keep my distance from them and watch coldly as they meet their inevitably miserable end. Anyway, you need to get back here now. Mom needs round-the-clock care, and I have to work tomorrow. It's Monday. My husband issued his ultimatum. As if I don't have a job too. If you can't handle it, why did you bring her home in the first place? If you want to play the hero, then see it through yourself. Don't drag me down with you. I hung up after saying that, promptly blocking his number and WeChat. In my past life, the sudden addition of a bedridden elderly person to the household caught me completely off guard. It's hard to find a specialized caregiver, and they cost a lot more than a regular nanny. My husband just couldn't bring himself to spend the money. Left with no other choice, I had to quit my job to take care of my mother-in-law full-time. Now he's the one scrambling. I'm curious to see how he manages to hold on to that job he's so proud of. Life back at my parents' place was wonderfully relaxing. Both my parents are university professors. My mom has retired and now spends her days tutoring her granddaughter with homework, as if she's found a new purpose in life. My father never once asked why I moved back. He just quietly handed me a card, saying they could support me and my daughter. I fought back the bitter tears welling up. In my past life, I couldn't rely on my in-laws, so I leaned entirely on my own family for support, but I was always too proud to complain to my parents, so they never knew the hardships I endured. I've learned my lesson this time. Rather than taking care of that awful mother-in-law, I'd much rather stay by my own parents' side and fulfill my filial duties. That evening, I turned on the home security camera we'd originally installed for our daughter, wanting to check in on that mother and son pair. The playback showed that Joe Hongwei hadn't gone to work today. He'd brought 2 housekeepers back one after the other, but each took one look into the spare bedroom, covered their noses, and bolted. He couldn't even stop them. Left with no choice, Joe Hongwei put on a heavy-duty mask and went in to clean up himself. A minute later, he rushed to the bathroom and was violently sick. Serves you right, you totally deserve it. I was laughing my head off, watching it all unfold like a play. Just you wait, this is only the beginning. On top of that, the old woman needs to be turned over 5 or 6 times a day to prevent bedsores. Her legs need massaging morning and night to prevent muscle atrophy, and lying flat for too long can lead to hypostatic pneumonia, which causes phlegm to build up in her throat. I can only imagine the look on his face when he had to have the phlegm suctioned manually. Zhou Hongwei couldn't hold out for more than 2 days. Unable to reach me by phone, he had no choice but to come and wait for me at the entrance of our office building. Xian, he pleaded. I know I was wrong for not telling you beforehand, but the person is already here. We can't just turn them away. I never said you couldn't handle it. That's rich, so it only counts as handling it if I'm the one doing it. Is that it? He was momentarily speechless, then added, but I'm a grown man. There are some things I just can't do. Besides, I have to go to work. How am I supposed to pay the mortgage without an income? Hire a nanny. Then, my husband was in a bind. I asked around. He said, for a situation like this, you'd have to pay someone $10,000 a month to get them to do it. That's just too expensive. Shouldn't you have considered all these factors before agreeing to take her in? I shot back. It's my mother-in-law who had the accident. My father-in-law is perfectly healthy and has now taken over her duties, looking after their grandson at my brother-in-law's house. The whole family is perfectly capable. Yet they all expect me to be the one who gets stuck with the bill and the burden. It's too late for that now, Zhou Hongwei said dejectedly, a hint of regret in his voice. I'll consider coming back, but on one condition. Name it, he urged, his eyes lighting up as he looked at me. Give me all of your mother's accident compensation money. There's no compensation money. My mother fell down the stairs on her own. Zhou Hongwei stammered, his eyes darting away. I was actually testing him. Forget $1 million, even if they offered me $10 million, I wouldn't go back to see that old hag. I just never expected that. Even now, he'd still try to keep me in the dark. I shook my head, not wanting to say another word. When Zhou Hongwei realized he couldn't persuade me, He showed up at my parents' place with gifts, putting on a pitiful act. "Mom, Dad, I'm here to take Xian and our daughter home," he said with an ingratiating smile. "You know that Xuan's home too. How could you decide to move another person in without discussing it with her?" My father already knew the whole story from me. My mother chimed in. "This is Xuan's home as well. She can stay here as long as she likes. It's certainly better than going back there to wait on someone hand and foot." Zhou Hongwei was fidgeting anxiously when he suddenly spotted his daughter playing nearby. "A child is always happiest when they're with their parents," he said, opening his arms toward his daughter and forcing a smile. "Meow meow, did you miss your daddy?" Unfortunately, his daughter completely ignored him. He awkwardly withdrew his hand. Serves him right for being ignored by his daughter. He always chose video games over spending time with her. Zhou Hongwei, finding himself unwelcome everywhere, soon slunk away in disgrace. I saw on the surveillance footage that he became much more irritable after returning. He was still grumbling while tidying up. "I was only gone for a minute, and you've already peed again. Starting tomorrow, you're drinking less water. Hungry, hungry, hungry. What's all the yelling about? I haven't eaten either, you know. Just wait, the takeout will be here any minute. Ugh, yuck, that stinks. Ha, can't handle it after just 1 week. In my past life, I endured it for a full 6 years. Since I never complained, they all assumed it was an easy job. My mother-in-law would often lie there, enjoying my massage while secretly complaining about me in the family group chat on her phone. When you're no longer useful, people look down on you. I might as well die sooner." The others immediately began to speculate. "Aunt, did the eldest son's wife say something hurtful?" "Sister-in-law, don't take your frustrations out on mom." "Eldest sister-in-law, everyone gets old someday." "Father-in-law, at Zhou Hongwei, get your wife under control." I often hadn't even said a word before the group chat was flooded with condemnation. This time, it's your turn to turn on each other. Zhou Hongwei was initially reluctant to hire a caregiver. He would leave food and water for his elderly mother every morning before work, and sneak back home once during the day. This continued until his company issued him a warning for his frequent, unauthorized absences. It's peak business season. As the sales manager, this is the crucial time for him to lead the team and drive performance, leaving absolutely no room for slacking off. To avoid losing his job, he had no choice but to ask for help in the family group chat. "Dad, could you come over to take care of mom? We're short-handed here." "Father-in-law, what about Xian? It's the daughter-in-law's duty to look after her mother-in-law." "Zhou Hongwei, she's gone back to her parents' place. I'm all on my own here and completely swamped. Please, don't ask so many questions. Just come over quickly." "Father-in-law, I have to look after my grandson. How can I possibly get away?" "Ha, no one's a fool here. They all know taking care of a bedridden patient is no easy task." The younger brother-in-law chimed in. "We need to call the eldest sister-in-law back. She can't just shirk her duty to care for the elderly." I logged in without a sound. The compensation mandated by law is specifically to ensure the victim's proper long-term care, so, whoever takes the money takes on the responsibility. Any objections? The group chat fell silent for a moment. They probably never expected I'd find out the truth about what happened to my mother-in-law. My brother-in-law quickly threw his own brother under the bus. "My brother got a share of that money too. So you're just as responsible," Zhou Hongwei snapped. "I didn't take nearly as much as you did." "Oh ho, turning on each other already. Guess even brothers have to settle their debts." Auntie chimed in for the gossip. "So how much did they actually lose?" "Even your uncle and I don't know." Grandma's in the group chat too. Her hands work just fine for scrolling on her phone. Enough of this back and forth. I've made up my mind. I'm staying with the eldest son's family. The old woman was still playing favorites. She knew that staying with either son would be a burden, so she was dead set against going back and being a weight on her younger son and her eldest grandson. Their uncle stepped in to mediate. "All right now, your mother didn't have it easy raising the two of you. Don't let her see you brothers fall out over this. Since she's already decided, let me make one more suggestion. Have the eldest hire a caregiver over there, and the two families can split the cost." The younger brother's wife objected. "Why should we? Big brother earns tens of thousands a month in the city. Can't he even afford a caregiver for mom? And it's not like sister-in-law's income is low either. It's not like us, stuck in our hometown, breaking our backs to earn 2 or 3,000 a month while raising 2 sons. We can't pay for this." Zhou Hongwei quickly interjected. "The nanny costs 10,000 a month. I've got a 5,000 mortgage. Plus I have to cover mom's food, drink, and medicine. My paycheck's gone before I even see it." TSK. He used to be all about saving face, never one to air his dirty laundry, but now that it's hitting his own wallet, He's learned how to play the sympathy card. His younger brother-in-law was taken aback. Big brother, don't try to pull one over on us small-town folks. What kind of nanny costs $10,000 a month? Zhou Hongwei shot back. Believe it or not, I don't care. Either way, you all need to chip in $5,000 a month for me. My sister-in-law suddenly pulled a classic blame-shifting move. Big brother was the one who volunteered to take mom in, and he said we didn't need to worry about it anymore. It's only been a few days, and now he's going back on his word. Did sister-in-law say something to him? No wonder they say my younger brother-in-law's family is shrewd. They've taken the money, dumped the burden, and now they have the nerve to turn the tables and drag me into this mess. I typed back with a cold laugh. That's right, I did say something. I said your big brother is a total pushover, a college-educated mind getting played like a fiddle by two high school graduates. Mom got hurt while taking care of your kids, so it's your responsibility to see this through. You think you can just pass this hot potato to someone else? Not a chance. Even if this goes to court, you're the ones in the wrong. I was deliberately steering Zhou Hongwei, while also muddying the waters further. I'm going to tear apart the family harmony they bought by sacrificing me in their past life, and make sure every last one of them suffers for it. Zhou Hongwei, as if struck by a sudden inspiration, said, right, if that doesn't work, we'll go to court. Let the alimony responsibility be decided based on the compensation each of us received. Don't think I don't know. Dad must have been subsidizing you all with the portion of money that was allocated to him. How rare. He actually ended up on the same side as me. In my past life, he would always side with the family and blame me without question. What a disgrace. I couldn't see my father-in-law's face, but I imagined his hands trembling as he typed. Two brothers taking each other to court. Think of the shame if this gets out. Your mother and I are still alive. Unfortunately, his two sons were already in a heated argument, blind with rage, and neither paid him any attention. Watching this whole spectacle, I was practically doubled over with glee. In the midst of the chaos, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, in a bid to deflect attention, both zeroed in on the same easy target to bully. Father-in-law, at Yang Yishuan, you are so malicious. You've been secretly poisoning my eldest son's mind against us, stirring up trouble and destroying the peace in our home. You're nothing but a curse. Mother-in-law also cursed me in the group chat. Heavens above. What sin did our family commit to bring a homewrecker like you into our lives? My eldest son was such a filial man, and look what you've turned him into. I let out a cold, scornful laugh. He was filial before because it required no effort. He's unfilial now because he realized it would take too much work. Even the most devoted son can't care for a parent who's sick forever. How can my in-laws not understand such a simple truth? My fingers flew across the keyboard as I unleashed a torrent of words. Were your Zhou ancestors chefs or something? You're all so good at passing the buck. What does your family's lousy morals have to do with me? Ever heard the saying, a crooked beam makes a slanted roof? My mother-in-law was so furious she sent a voice message. How dare you speak to me like that, you little bitch? If you keep disrespecting your elders, I'll have my son kick you out. Unfazed, I kept typing. Looks to me like you're just sitting on your high horse, thinking you're above the law. Go ahead, tell your son to divorce me right now. Let's see who really gets thrown out on the street. What a joke. When it came time to buy the marital home, my husband only had 100,000 to his name. My father paid the remaining 300,000 for the down payment. Our family contributed the lion's share. So even in a property split, I should get the biggest portion. My mother-in-law fell silent. Probably because my husband came in and told her to shut up. The whole farce ended with the two brothers agreeing to split the cost of a caretaker, though my brother-in-law would only chip in 2,000 yuan a month. Zhou Hongwei was clearly stewing with resentment, so he probably won't be treating his old mother very well. The online drama in the group chat may be over, but the real-world conflict is far from finished. The housekeeper Zhou Hongwei hired quit after just 1 week. She said she couldn't stand the old lady's difficult temperament. I knew this would happen. That's just how the old woman is. Even better than, she still acts all high and mighty, nitpicking and finding fault with everything every single day. She'll work you to death without a second thought. On the monitor, Zhou Hongwei was pacing around in a frantic state, then stormed into the secondary bedroom to loudly berate his mother. Don't you realize the situation we're in? You should be grateful anyone is willing to take care of you at all. You can just stay by yourself tomorrow. I'm done waiting on you hand and foot. To minimize bathroom trips, Zhou Hongwei took only a cup of water and a steamed bun into the spare bedroom the next day. After just 2 days, the old woman couldn't take it anymore and started demanding in the group chat to be sent back to her hometown. I miss my grandson, second son. Come and get me right away. Her younger brother-in-law didn't say a word. The sister-in-law chimed in, "If you miss your grandson, just video call him. You're living the good life at your eldest son's place. No need to worry about things back home," the old woman stammered, hesitant to say it outright. I just can't get used to the food here. A nanny costing $10,000 a month, and the food still isn't to your liking," the old woman confessed helplessly. "The nanny's gone." The younger brother-in-law immediately jumped in, "I already transferred the money to you, and now we don't need a nanny anymore, then give me my money back," Zhou Hongwei sneered. "Didn't you hear Mom say she wants to go back? You take her with you, and I'll return the money. You think you can just take her when you want and send her back when you feel like it? Dad and Mom are both here, you don't get to call the shots in this house," the younger brother-in-law retorted defiantly. The old woman timidly interjected, "Mom wants to go back. My brother-in-law is being willfully blind. Mom and Dad paid for your education, sent you to the big city. Now that you've made something of yourself, you don't want to take responsibility anymore." Zhou Hongwei was furious. "You're the one who got more resources. Don't think I don't know. All the money I've been giving Mom and Dad over the years, they've spent it on you. You even got the lion's share of the compensation payout. You got the better deal, and now you want to dump Mom on me. Great." I was absolutely seething. "He's always so stingy about paying for our daughter's extracurricular classes, but he's been secretly sending money back home all this time." As her two sons started arguing again, they batted her future back and forth like a football. The thin-skinned old woman couldn't take it anymore and wailed, "Enough, it's all my fault. I should just get hit by a car. Why am I not dead yet?" That shut both sons up completely, as if they were silently endorsing her suggestion. "I haven't just been sitting around watching the drama unfold all these days. If I want a divorce and to make Zhou Hongwei leave with nothing, I have to find proof of his infidelity, but there are too few leads. In my past life, I was too busy taking care of that old hag, looking haggard and muddling through each day. I simply had no time to pay attention to that scumbag Zhou Hongwei. I didn't even know about his affair until the old woman threw it in my face during an argument. I wonder if that homewrecker has already started meddling in my family." I paid someone to tail Zhou Hongwei, and the report came back that he had been seen on what looked like several dates with a young woman. What's more, they seem to work for the same company, coming and going from the same office building. Looking at the blurry photos the detective sent, my eyes widened in shock. Because the woman in the photos, the one dating that scumbag, looked familiar. That was in a past life. One day, this woman came knocking, saying she was the new neighbor renting next door, and even brought a bag of fruit as a housewarming gift. Later, the old lady called me inside to help her tidy up, so I left Zhou Hongwei to entertain her. She came by a few more times after that, with excuses like a broken light bulb or a clogged drain, always asking Zhou Hongwei for help. I was just too slow on the uptake. It never occurred to me that they already knew each other. To carry on their affair more easily, the other woman actually moved in right next door, so they'd been having their little thrill right under my nose, and they don't even try to hide it from me. It's like they're using me as part of their twisted game. Well, since Miss Homewrecker has delivered herself to my doorstep, I might as well give her a little push. Let her step into my shoes a bit early and see how it feels to live my former life. I found the unit number for the apartment next door in the property management group chat. I noticed third sister was quite confident, using her own photo as her profile picture. That at least made it easy to recognize her. I sent her a friend request, and she hesitated for a moment before accepting. I put on an apologetic face. "Hello neighbor, sorry to bother you. I have an elderly relative at home who was disabled in a car accident. They're bedridden long-term and can be a bit grumpy, so if you hear any occasional noise, I'd really appreciate your understanding. Smile, JPG, a car accident." Third sister's confusion made me realize that Zhou Hongwei had been holding back with her, too. "Yeah," I typed, my heart heavy. Even though it was the maximum compensation for a traffic accident, it still can't buy back the old man's health, so. "How much was the settlement?" she asked cautiously. I put on a casual, off-guard air, "Around $1 million or so." After sending a thumbs-up emoji, the other person fell silent. I put down my phone, satisfied. The bait was set. I hoped third sister would latch onto Zhou Hongwei, that compensation-rich second generation, and speed up her entry into the Zhou family. That evening, as expected, I saw on the surveillance feed that third sister, living up to expectations, knocked on my door. She visited the old lady with some fruit and mentioned she had some basic nursing knowledge, offering to help if needed. Knowing about the surveillance camera, Zhou Hongwei behaved relatively normally, but the next morning, I found the surveillance feed had gone black. No doubt third sister had already made her way inside, tending to the old lady to win her favor. Good, I hope you two are stuck with each other for good, and stop scheming against other people, coincidentally, in the family group chat. The father-in-law at Ed, the eldest son, asking him to send a few recent photos of the mother-in-law. Zhou Hongwei took a picture, his impatience evident. The mother-in-law's gaunt, ashen face was a shocking sight. Her hair was so greasy it hung in clumps, and her fingernails were caked with grime. She looked utterly filthy and unwashed. It was a world of difference from the rosy-cheeked, well-cared-for woman I had waited on hand and foot in her previous life. How did she get so thin? Her father-in-law couldn't help but press. Zhou Hongwei snapped impatiently. She's too much of a mess. I can't find a nanny, and I'm trying to work and manage the household all by myself. This is the best I can do. If you don't like it, take her back with you. My father-in-law chimed in again. Is your wife still not back? Go and get her right now. This is no business for a man to be meddling in. Exactly, it's a daughter-in-law's duty to look after her mother-in-law. My brother-in-law jumped in, adding fuel to the fire. Aren't your sister-in-law's parents university professors? Surely they taught her better family values than this. I was furious. You can mess with me, but bringing my parents into this, you've just crossed a line. What a bunch of selfish, despicable people. How dare you talk about family values? My family certainly never taught me to abandon all decency for the sake of money. And another thing, stop calling me sister-in-law. I'm filing for divorce from Zhou Hongwei, wondering why your dear brother keeps whining about not being able to afford a housekeeper. It's because all his money is going to his mistress. I slammed several photos and videos onto the table, giving them a little shock. The photos show Zhou Hongwei and third sister kissing in a car, along with footage of them entering and leaving the residential complex together. TSK, he feeds his own mother nothing but steamed buns and plain water every day, yet he's out there living it up with the compensation money. If word of this family tradition gets out, the shame would be unbearable. I continued to mock, since he insisted on bringing his mother here against all advice. Let her become the permanent moral shackle he's forced to carry. Zhou Hongwei was desperately trying to stop me. Yang Yishuan, shut up, you're slandering me. Nothing you're saying is true. After a wave of shock swept through the group chat, my brother-in-law was the first to speak up. Bro, I never thought you were that kind of person. Hand over that 400,000 compensation money to me, now. Don't you dare squander it all. My father-in-law also started yelling. Eldest son, how could you? That money was divided up to provide for your mother's retirement. How can you just waste it like that? The whole family descended into chaos once again, with everyone at each other's throats. Unfortunately, I'd already lost all interest in this ridiculous soap opera. With a single tap, I left the group chat, armed with evidence of the affair. I filed for divorce in court and hired a lawyer to handle the proceedings. My lawyer said that with the other party's infidelity, I would undoubtedly win custody. I also didn't think Zhou Hongwei would fight me for it, as dealing with one elderly parent was already giving him enough headaches. Furthermore, given that I was the primary caregiver and had contributed a larger share to the marital home, the house would be awarded to me. I only needed to reimburse Zhou Hongwei his initial 100,000 yuan down payment. I also found Zhou Hongwei's company website and posted about his marital infidelity in the public comment section. I am the wife of your employee, Zhou Hongwei. I am reporting that he had an affair with a subordinate on his team, which has damaged your company's reputation. I then attached links to photos, videos, and other evidence, worried the website post would go unnoticed. I also found the leadership's email addresses. I even added the HR manager on WeChat under the guise of a job application and sent the same information. I'm confident that scumbag scandal will spread throughout the entire company soon. The company acted surprisingly fast. They quickly responded that, given Zhou Hongwei's egregious conduct, he has been temporarily suspended, and further action will be determined after review and discussion. As for what happens to that other woman, I really don't care, because after seeing Zhou Hongwei for the scumbag he truly is, I would have left him and taken my daughter with me, even if there hadn't been another woman wrecking my home. My parents thought things through more carefully. Worried the jerk might do something drastic and hurt me, they simply took me and my daughter to stay in a hotel for the time being. I left all the divorce proceedings to my lawyer, planning to move back only after the property dispute was settled. The divorce case dragged on for several months before a verdict was finally reached. In the end, I got the house, the child, and the car. That scumbag's 100,000 yuan down payment was classified as alimony, so he didn't get it back. Zhou Hongwei refused to accept the ruling. When I sent people to repossess the house, he stubbornly refused to leave, but I wasn't fazed. I immediately listed the house online for sale, deliberately setting the price below market value. I even handpicked a particularly aggressive buyer. In the end, Zhou Hongwei and his bedridden mother were forcibly evicted by the buyer. He lost his house, his car, his job, and even his third sister ran off. I am very satisfied with how his life ended. I returned to a peaceful life with my daughter and my parents. In my past life, after I died, I never knew how hard my daughter had it, living under the thumb of a grandmother, father, and stepmother who didn't care for her. But in this life, I will do everything in my power to give her the best, so she can receive whole and complete love, even within a broken family. Later, I received news about Zhou Hongwei again. After losing his job, he rented a tiny place. With no way to afford a caregiver anymore, the room reeked of the pungent stench of urine and feces every day. In a fit of anger, he hired a car, hauled his mother back, and secretly dumped her right at his younger brother's doorstep. He was caught red-handed by his sister-in-law, who had just stepped out to take out the trash. Hearing the commotion, his younger brother rushed out, and the two brothers immediately came to blows. The former father-in-law stepped in to break up the fight. But someone accidentally punched him. The old man collapsed on the spot. He survived after being rushed to the hospital, but was left in a semi-vegetative state, paralyzed from the neck down with only his head able to move. The old woman, already frail, was so shocked by this that she couldn't catch her breath and passed away. After the funeral, the two brothers started arguing again over who should take care of the old man. It's said that things even escalated to a court battle. With neither side willing to provide for him, the old man eventually starved to death. They say by the end, he was as thin as a skeleton. The two brothers, who abused their parent to death, became infamous locally and even went viral online, with people showing up daily to curse them out. But all of that has nothing to do with me anymore. I'll raise my little girl with all the love and care she deserves. And when my parents grow old, I'll be there to support them in every way. That's the simple, contented life I hope to live. Story 2. On the day the betrothal gifts were presented, just as my fiancé and I had settled on the wedding date, my younger sister Hui Yuan rushed into my courtyard in a tearful rage. Sister, I've already taken the abortifacient. I'll take the secret of that night when I took your place to serve your husband-to-be. To my grave, I'll never compete with you for a man again. Please, I beg you, spare my life, won't you? My fiancé, Xiao Yuheng, flew into a rage on the spot, denouncing me as a vicious, heartless shrew. He had me sent to the military camp then and there, and my betrothal gifts were promptly carried into Hui Yuan's courtyard instead. I was reduced to a camp prostitute, my tongue cut out, my limbs severed. Before her miserable death, Hui Yuan wore a vicious, gloating smile. Sister, so what if I'm the daughter of a whore? Haven't I still swapped fates with you? All your chaste devotion to Xiao Yuheng was for nothing. He calls you a slut and vows to spend his life with me. I died with a heart full of resentment, only to open my eyes and find myself back on the day Xiao Yuheng came to the Hua Manor to propose. Just as in my past life, Hui Yuan wept pitifully, tearfully recounting my every misdeed. Before my enraged fiancé could even finish his threat to send me off to the military camp, I took the initiative. Dropping to my knees and confessing everything without denial, I did it, I admit it, I am willing to atone for this with my life. Everyone was stunned, including my younger sister, Hui Yuan. She never expected me to claim responsibility for something she hadn't done, and the others were completely baffled by what I was playing at. But I knew this was the only way to avoid being sent to the military camp. For us young ladies of the inner chambers, once you enter a military camp, your reputation is ruined. You'd never be able to marry for the rest of your life. Even if you truly clear your name of the false charges, it would be a Pyrrhic victory, inflicting 800 losses on the enemy at the cost of 1,000 of your own. Father, did you hear that? Sister has admitted it. I beg you, Father, to uphold justice for A Yuan. Hui Yuan knelt and crawled before her father, weeping in a most pitiable manner. My reputation is already ruined. I know I am unworthy of the young Master Xiao, and I dare not contend with my sister for a husband. I would rather remain unmarried for life, take the tonsure, and live out my days as a nun. Hui Yuan's plaintive tone made her father's heart ache. He frowned with concern and hurriedly helped her to her feet. A Yuan, what foolish talk is this? If your sister, Huolingi, is truly the one to blame, I, your father, will see that justice is done for you. He looked up, meeting my furious glare, yet remained resolute in his determination to shield Hui Yuan behind him. A faint, smug smile touched Hui Yuan's lips, while I responded with a scornful laugh. Years ago, Hui Junshan, drunk and behind my mother's back, sought pleasure in a brothel and fathered Hui Yuan with the courtesan there. He was so afraid of people gossiping that Hui Yuan was the daughter of a courtesan that he even risked a falling out with my mother to take that celebrated courtesan as his concubine. in my past life. I never understood why a mere concubine-born daughter would choose the very day of my betrothal to cause a scene, and why father saw nothing suspicious in it. Without even a proper investigation, he readily condemned me. It was only on my deathbed that I finally understood. He simply pitted Hui Yuan for being a concubine's daughter, fearing she would never marry into a respectable family, and so he conspired to steal my fate for hers, and mother knew nothing of all this, frowning. She watched me kneeling there and pleaded with me again and again, Lingy, how could I not know your character? How could you possibly do such a vile thing? Are you in some kind of trouble? Tell me, and I will stand up for you. No sooner had mother finished speaking than Xiao Yuheng, in a rage, tore the jade pendant from his waist and hurled it straight at my face. Lingy, you truly have the heart of a serpent. I thought that night you gave yourself to me out of desperate concern to save me. How could I have known you would harm your own sister to such an extent? Consider me blind. The betrothal gifts need not be sent. Our engagement is hereby cancelled. I slowly raised my eyes, gazing calmly at Xiao Yuheng, the enraged heir to the duke's estate. 3 months ago, Hui Yuan came running to me in a panic. She claimed to have seen with her own eyes that my betrothed was lovesick for me. She even delivered a letter from him, urging me to meet him in secret that very night. Suspecting a trap, I did not go. After that night, before dawn had even broken, I saw Hui Yuan running back, her clothes disheveled and her face a picture of utter distress. It was only later, when I accidentally stumbled upon Hui Yuan conspiring with the old servant, that I learned the truth. That night, she had originally plotted to ruin my virtue. She was the one who had drugged Xiao Yuheng. I didn't fall for the trap, so the old servant urged Hui Yuan to seize the opportunity herself. She extinguished the lights, pretended to be me, and consummated the marriage with Xiao Yuheng. No wonder in my past life, when I cried out my innocence and my parents had someone verify my virginity, Xiao Yuheng's face turned ashen. He callously sent me off to the military camp to be disciplined, completely disregarding our lifelong bond as childhood friends. So he had simply mistaken the woman from that one fleeting night of passion for the one he intended to marry, and so, he readily believed Hui Yuan's words. He believed I was wicked at heart, that I had made her take my place, and was responsible for her loss of virtue. I curtsied to Xiao Yuheng. Young Master Xiao, I'm afraid you are mistaken. The person who drugged you and met with you in secret that night was truly not me. This betrothal should indeed be called off. After saying this, I turned gracefully and knelt before my parents with composure, bowing my head respectfully. Father, mother, your daughter is fully aware of the wicked deeds I have committed. I am too ashamed to face anyone. I would rather hang myself at home. Once again, everyone was stunned. Xiao Yuheng's unspent fury froze on his face. He stared at me in a daze before snapping back to reality and clenching his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. Lingy, you'd rather die than marry me. What do you take me for? That night, he had deliberately come to the Ho residence as a guest and proceeded to drink himself into a stupor. He had the intention of having an affair with me before our marriage all along. Otherwise, why would he have so readily drunk the spiked sobering soup that Hui Yuan sent over via her maid? Under the pretense that it was from me, naturally, I regarded him as my brother-in-law. My matter-of-fact reply left Xiao Yuheng's anger with no outlet, leaving him instead momentarily speechless. My parents stared at me in utter shock. Lingy, do you have any idea what this means? If you confess, your reputation will be ruined forever. My mother pleaded with me, her eyes red-rimmed. All these years, I raised you myself, teaching you to be an upright person, to never stoop to such despicable acts. How could you do something like this? Mother had someone pass her the whip, intent on giving me a severe lesson. The lash landed on my back, and a sharp, explosive pain instantly bloomed. I remembered it was the same in my past life. In her desperate desire to protect her daughter, mother thought that by punishing me first, she could avert the more severe punishment that was to come. Little did she expect that Xiao Yuheng and my father would be so utterly heartless. In the end, I was sent off to the military camp. Mother was crying so hard she nearly fainted, yet Xiao Yuheng kept offering his assurances. Mother-in-law, please don't worry, a good friend of mine in the camp will personally look after her. As long as Lingy is willing to learn the rules and behave, she certainly won't have a hard time. But the looking after he spoke of, yet on the bed, he only intensified his brutal trampling of me. They blamed my fierce temper and stubborn resistance. First, they severed the tendons in my wrists and ankles, and later, they went so far as to amputate all 4 of my limbs. They also despised the foulness of my curses and that I had even bitten and injured several generals in the military camp. Then they shattered my teeth and cut out my tongue. The agonies of my past life are still vivid in my mind. I clenched my fist. yet I caught my mother's wrist, stopping the whip from descending once more. "Mother, please, hear me out. I had no choice but to do this. I have my reasons, and it was for the safety of the entire Hua family." In his 20 years as an official, Hua Junshan had never encountered someone like me, a person who had committed every conceivable evil, yet willingly confessed. His brow furrowed even deeper. "Lingy, you've always been clever since you were a child. Now that you're admitting it so openly, are you up to some trick again? And you claim to have your reasons. You're an unmarried young lady. Your parents are the ones who should shield you from life's storms. What possible reasons could you have?" I lowered my head, my gaze falling, and a faint smile touched the corners of my lips. "Of course there is. My daughter did all of this to break off the engagement, all because a man has taken a fancy to her. He threatened her, forbidding her to marry anyone else, or else he would take the lives of the entire Hua family." This time, even my father was shocked. They stared at each other in disbelief. "That's utter nonsense." Hua Junshan smashed the teacup to pieces, his face livid with rage. "How dare you spread such rumors? Tell me, who exactly is the one who threatened you? I'd like to know myself, who in the entire court, in all the land, has the audacity to threaten my Hua family?" It was the regent. The moment I finished speaking, the room fell into a dead silence. Hua Junshan stared at me in disbelief. "What did you say?" "It was Regent Xia Liangchen. He is the man I was involved with, and it was he who forbade me from marrying anyone else. Even this entire scheme was his own design. I never intended for my sister to lose her virtue. This was entirely the regent's plot against our Hua family. If you don't believe me, father, you can send for him to come to the estate. One question will reveal the truth." My father and mother finally fell silent. Even if the Hua family's status is among the very top in the entire capital, that man is, after all, the exalted regent, second only to the emperor himself. Even the newly enthroned emperor must show him deference. Hua Junshan flew into a rage, humiliated and furious, convinced I was spouting nonsense. He drew his sword, intent on cutting me down with a single stroke. "You disgraceful girl! Confined to the inner chambers, how could you possibly be acquainted with an outside man like the regent? Shameless! I'd rather kill you with my own hands than let you bring shame upon the Hua family's good name." Before his sword could even reach me, mother kicked it away. My mother shielded me without a second thought. "My lord, Lingy has confessed everything. Why won't you believe her, whether it's true or not? We must verify the facts before passing judgment. In my opinion, we should summon the regent." Seeing the situation take an unexpected turn, my younger sister Hui Yuan panicked and begged our parents not to believe me. "Father, mother, my elder sister has always been cunning. She was the one who ruined my virtue, who used medicine to take my child from me, and now she's spinning wild tales about the regent, all just to downplay her crimes. Poor Yuan is but a lowly concubine-born daughter, having lost my purity with no hope for justice. I might as well be dead." She made a scene, threatening to throw herself into the lake, but Xiao Yuheng, his heart aching for her, stopped her. Their eyes met with deep affection, and Xiao Yuheng took her hand, making a solemn promise. "Yuan, you must not belittle yourself, since we are already husband and wife in truth. I, as the heir, care not for your status as a concubine's daughter. Even if I must break off my engagement with Hua Lingy, I will take you as my wife." Hearing this, Hui Yuan pitifully wiped away her tears once more. Putting on an air of understanding, she said, "I am deeply grateful for young Master Zhao's favor. Yuan, know my place is humble. My elder sister is the legitimate daughter of the Hua family, accustomed to a life of comfort and privilege. I'm sure our parents would find it hard to punish her. I do not seek justice for myself, nor do I wish to put our parents in a difficult position. I only hope father will grant his permission to send my sister to the military camp for a few days to learn some discipline. That would ease my grievances. When she returns, we can still be the closest of sisters." I let out a vehement mental scoff. How sweetly she speaks. So this is the trap she's been laying for me all along. Xiao Yuheng suddenly understood and nodded in agreement. "Father-in-law, mother-in-law, in my opinion, Yuan is right. The military camp is indeed an excellent place to learn discipline. I have a few general friends there who will certainly take good care of Lingy. If the Hua family doesn't administer punishment soon, once these rumors spread in a few days, Hua Lingy will likely find it impossible to hold her head up in society." Watching them perform in perfect harmony, I could only sneer coldly. Whether my sister's virtue was truly compromised, or if she ever was with child, still needs to be verified. Why the rush to send me off to the military camp? Are you telling me you have other plans, little sister? Plans to ruin your elder sister's reputation, or perhaps to bring utter disgrace upon our entire family? She trembled with rage. How could that be? what nonsense are you spouting? I gave a faint smile. I hope I'm just talking nonsense. I looked at her meaningfully, yet my eyes held a warning. This time, her triumph wouldn't last long. Just then, the maid, Xiao Shuang, returned. I shot her a questioning look. She smiled and gave me a slight nod, and only then did I let out a sigh of relief. I was confined to my chambers, awaiting the regent's arrival. Yet, Xiao Yuhing stormed into my boudoir in a furious rush. He swung his hand and slapped me across the face. Hualingi, you wretched woman, all your previous affection was just an act. How dare you take a lover behind my back? I looked up at him, my hand pressed to my cheek. Xiao Yuhing was about to deliver a second slap, but I seized his wrist with a fierce grip. Young Master Xiao, I must ask you to restrain yourself. Restrain myself, Xiao Yuhing sneered with contempt. A woman of your wanton character, what could you possibly know about restraint? He flung a crimson mandarin duck undergarment in my face. Yuan saw it with her own eyes. That night you refused to see me. I thought you were so high and mighty. Who knew you'd stoop lower than a common whore behind my back? You actually went to meet another man in secret, and left this sort of thing with that scoundrel as a keepsake. You have no shame. I looked closely, and sure enough, my pet name was embroidered on that mandarin duck undergarment. My face drained of color. I turned to Qiu Shuang, who shook her head, her complexion deathly pale. Miss, it wasn't me. Just then, Hu Yuan walked in from behind, a smile on her face. Sister, aren't you breaking off the engagement with the Marquis's son? If you fancy some other man now, just tell father and mother, they'd surely support you. Why all this beating around the bush? So it's Hu Yuan again. Before I could speak, she leaned in close to my ear and said smugly, Hualingi, I must say, you are clever. To think you'd involve the regent in this, setting up a whole spectacle for me in the military camp. It seems your little plan is now obsolete, but how could I, your dear sister, ever disappoint you? My face was full of wariness. Hu Yuan, what are you up to? She cooed at Xiao Yuhing. My lord, give them the order. It wasn't until the shadow guard stormed in to throw me in the cane that I realized the gravity of the situation. Hu Yuan, if mother and father find out you dared to do this, they'll have your hide. Yet, her laughter only grew more gleeful. Your mother is running herself ragged trying to clean up the mess you've made. And father has gone to the regent's estate. He won't be back for quite some time. She kicked me viciously, the blow landing with a sickening crack that sent a jolt of pain deep into my bones. By the time they return, all they'll find is your corpse, having drowned yourself in the lake out of sheer shame. Sister, a woman as shameless as you has no place in this world. Your very existence tarnishes the Hua family name. Consider this a favor from your younger sister. I struggled with all my might, but my strength was no match for the shadow guards. I could only let them stuff me into the pig cage. As they were about to throw me into the lake, the water rushed over my face, suffocating me. I couldn't help but remember my past life, when they toyed with me for their amusement in the military camp, all because a general had expressed a desire to see a maiden frolic in the water. They forced my head down, completely submerging me in the bathtub. The more I struggled for air, the more excitedly they laughed. Now, a wave of humiliation washes over me, my eyes burn crimson, and my consciousness begins to fade. Stop. But just then, an authoritative voice rang out, tinged with anger. My heart leapt with joy. I saw Xia Liangchen rushing towards me in a panic, and then I fainted. I had a very long dream. I dreamt of my past life, of Regent Xia Liangchen. In that past life, I was passed from one military camp to another, trampled upon and treated as a plaything by those brutish men. It was Xia Liangchen who never stopped searching for me. Yet, Hu Yuan and Xiao Yuhing lied, claiming they had sent me back to my hometown in Yuyang to learn proper manners. They even said I was a bride-to-be, confined to the inner chambers and forbidden from meeting men outside the family. Xia Liangchen searched every corner of his ancestral home in Yuyang, only to be told that I had already died long ago. Heartbroken, he hung white funeral banners throughout the entire regent's residence and held a funeral for me as if I were his own kin, even if my remains were never found. But later, when I met a tragic end in the military camp, Xia Liangchen finally learned that my death was the result of a conspiracy. Upon seeing my disfigured face, his hair turned white overnight. Later, he even took his own life before my grave. A man as noble as Xia Liangchen, who kept his affection hidden for a lifetime, never once letting me discover it. If he were to learn that I am now imprisoned, how could he possibly not help me? Lord Regent, might I ask you now to inform this humble official why you have dealt such a cruel hand to my youngest daughter? I opened my eyes and awoke to the sound of my father's anxious questioning, yet Xia Liangchen said not a single word, merely gazing at me with tender eyes. Once Miss Hua awakens, this prince will explain everything in due course. My father was unceremoniously and shamefacedly driven from the room. He looked down at the two figures kneeling on the ground and rebuked them with a cold voice. What on earth were you two doing? Even if you were caught in a compromising situation, did you have to make such a public spectacle of it? And of all people, you had to be seen by the regent himself. Hui Yuan and Xiao Yuhing exchanged a glance. She then tugged at her father. Hui Junshan's sleeve, adopting a coquettish tone. Father, you've already agreed to my betrothal to the Xiao heir. You wouldn't go back on your word now, would you? Since the betrothal gifts have already been given to A Yuan, she is, by all rights, the young master's fiancée. If we were to hasten the wedding, it would settle the matter of premarital impropriety and put an end to all this gossip. As for my sister, the wicked deeds she has committed, I fear even the regent will come to despise her. Xiao Yuhing hastily voiced his agreement. Hu Lingyi was unchaste even before leaving her maiden chambers. A venomous woman like her, her very existence tarnishes the Hu family's good name. At that very moment, the door creaked open. An attendant from the regent's side came out to deliver a message. Lord Hu, young Master Xiao. Second Miss, His Highness requests your presence. Xia Liangchen sat in the seat of honor, to which even his own parents had to bow. Hu Junshan repeated his earlier question, demanding to know why he had targeted Hui Yuan and, worse still, harmed the child in her womb. Xia Liangchen took a sip of tea with an impassive expression before speaking calmly. I did not do those things. Upon hearing this, Hui Yuan's face lit up with joy, and she looked at me with a triumphant expression. Sister, did you hear that? His Highness did not admit to it. Now that you've told a lie and even dared to drag the regent's name through the mud, how can you be sure your punishment won't be even more severe? Xiao Yuhing also let out a heavy sigh of relief, then pointed at me and began to shout curses. Hu Lingyi, you truly are shameless and vicious. You committed wicked deeds without a shred of remorse, and now you even dare to try and implicate the regent. As he spoke, he was about to order his men to take me away and throw me into the military camp to learn some discipline. Even my own father sighed in relief and readily complied, hastily calling for someone to take me away. Hold it. Xia Liangchen's voice was not loud, yet it carried an air of absolute authority. He swept a cold gaze over the assembled crowd, but when his eyes landed on my father, a faint smile touched his lips. Lord Hu, since this matter now involves this prince, I trust you have no objection to me personally investigating the truth, so as to clear everyone's name. Hu Junshan's face was a picture of discomfort, yet he forced a smile and nodded. Thank you, Your Highness. Xia Liangchen gave a mocking smile, looked up, and ordered, bring the witness forward. When the regent's shadow guards brought forth the old servant who attended Hui Yuan, her face turned deathly pale. Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? No one paid her any heed. With a face as pale as a ghost, Hui Yuan pleaded with Xiao Yuhing to intervene on her behalf. That old servant was my personal nanny. I never imagined my own sister could be so cruel-hearted, that she wouldn't even spare my only attendant. She even resorted to torturing a woman of such advanced age to extract a false confession, all to frame me. Although Xiao Yuhing felt it was improper, he dared not contradict the regent and cause him to lose face. A Yuan, since you've been wronged, let's first hear what this old servant has to say. I, the heir, will surely beg the regent to see that justice is done for you. Hu Yuan looked flustered and tried to speak, but was cut off by the old servant's voice. Your Highness, this old woman has come to restore the truth to the young mistress. The old servant, battered and bruised from the beating, now knelt respectfully and confessed the whole truth. That night, it was actually the second Miss, Hui Yuan, who drugged the young Master Xiao. She was jealous that the eldest miss had secured such a good match, so she tried to ruin her virtue before the wedding to make her despised by her in-laws. But when the eldest miss didn't fall for it, she hatched a wicked plan of her own, to steal her own sister's betrothed for herself. What's more, she was never pregnant. The whole story about the abortifacient was a lie, a deliberate smear against the eldest miss. In truth, she had already set a trap at the military camp. On the surface, she claimed she was sending the eldest miss there to learn discipline, but her real intention was to have her forced into becoming a camp prostitute. Upon hearing this, everyone was utterly horrified. I confess to everything. Spare my life, Your Highness the Regent. The old servant knelt on the ground, kowtowing heavily. Watching this scene, I let out an unconscious sigh of relief. I wonder what methods the regent used to make her confess everything so completely. Ever since leaving the brothel with the courtesan, this old servant had been renowned for his loyalty, showing absolute devotion to Hui Yuan. Getting her to open up and tell the truth must have taken considerable effort. At that thought, I instinctively turned to look at Xia Liangchen. He happened to glance up and meet my gaze, his eyes reassuring me not to be afraid. A wave of warmth washed over my heart. and I quickly averted my eyes. Upon learning the truth, Mother was absolutely livid, all pretense of virtue and propriety forgotten. She grabbed a whip and lunged to strike Hui Yuan. "You wretched little tramp, just as vile as your mother, using such despicable tricks to harm my daughter. I rue the day I ever let you and your mother cross my threshold. I should have left you both to freeze to death in the blizzard." My mother's words were laced with deep regret, which stirred my memories. Back when Hu Junshan married my mother, he knelt and swore to the heavens that he would never take a concubine, yet, just a few years later, he caused that scandal at the brothel. He even got the courtesan there pregnant. My mother was determined to seek a divorce, but for my sake and out of consideration for their many years of marriage, she chose to endure in silence. It was only out of pity for Hui Yuan, an innocent child, that my mother finally relented and agreed to let my father take the courtesan as his concubine. Although that courtesan contracted syphilis and died young, yet my mother raised Hui Yuan as her own legitimate daughter, never showing the slightest favoritism. In fact, her clothing, food, and daily life were identical to mine. I never imagined I was raising an ungrateful wretch. In my past life, I never understood it. Even unto death, why would she conspire with others to frame me deliberately, leading to my capture and a torturous death in the military camp? Only now, in this life, have I finally come to understand. Some people are just never satisfied. They envy those who have and mock those who lack. I became betrothed to Xiao Yuheng, the heir of the duke's estate, who had been my childhood sweetheart. Even though father promptly found a promising scholar for her, she looked down on him and stubbornly insisted on competing with me for my match. And to think, they had the gall to sneak out for a secret rendezvous in the dead of night. Now, they're trying to finish me off for good. Beaten and sobbing, Hui Yuan wailed and scrambled to hide behind Hu Junshan. "Father, you have to save me. You promised to have my back, that you wouldn't let anyone bully me again. That old servant only said those things because he was tortured into a false confession. I'm innocent, father, I didn't do any of this." Hu Junshan had long been inclined to shield Hui Yuan. His years in office had made him shrewd and experienced, and he had seen through the truth of the matter at a glance. Yet, at this moment, he still chose to defend Hui Yuan. "Your Highness, this must be a misunderstanding. Although A Yuan is of humble birth, a daughter of a concubine, she has always been deeply devoted to her elder sister since childhood. She has no reason to do such a thing. Could it be that someone is maliciously framing her?" Xia Liangchen lowered his gaze and smiled faintly. "Lord Hua, surely you don't believe she is the only witness, do you?" As soon as the words were spoken, Hui Yuan's face turned deathly pale. She stared at Xia Liangchen in terror as he opened his mouth and said, "Bring in the next witness." The man was none other than the owner of the herbal medicine shop. He testified that 3 months ago, it was Hui Yuan herself who had purchased the aphrodisiac from him. Both the symptoms and the effects were identical to the drug Xiao Yuheng had been dosed with that night. Xiao Yuheng, who had been watching the scene unfold with cold detachment, was now a picture of shock and fury. "Hui Yuan, so it was you who drugged me that night." The memory of that night suddenly came rushing back to him. A message from the Hua Manor had claimed that Hu Lingyi, who had long harbored feelings for him, wished to meet him quietly under the cover of darkness. Though we grew up together as childhood sweethearts, once I came of age, we had to observe the proper distance between men and women. We could hardly ever see each other after that. Xiao Yuheng, overjoyed at heart, gladly accepted the invitation, never suspecting any trickery. That night, he got drunk with my father and ended up staying over at the Hua residence. That night, I was burning with fever and restlessness. Just as the discomfort became unbearable, a soft, warm, and fragrant presence enveloped me. His heart leapt with joy, thinking it was me. Only now did the truth dawn on him. This entire farce was orchestrated by Hui Yuan herself. Furious and humiliated, Xiao Yuheng smashed all the betrothal gifts he had previously sent into pieces. "Hui Yuan, I never imagined you were such a shameless harlot. How utterly depraved. Crawling into your own brother-in-law's bed, you have no shame." Xiao Yuheng prided himself on his handsome looks. Combined with his status as the heir to the duke's estate, he was accustomed to women flocking to him. Yet, he despised those who were overly forward the most, the kind who would even sell their bodies to climb the social ladder. He used to find Hui Yuan utterly charming and endearing in every way. Now, he finds her utterly repulsive. "No wonder you're so set on having Hu Lingyi executed. Only with her dead will your vile deeds be buried forever, never to see the light of day. Isn't that right, Hui Yuan? It seems to me that you're the one who should be sent to the military camp to learn some discipline." Xiao Yuheng gave a sweeping wave of his hand. The guards behind him actually moved to take Hui Yuan away. She panicked instantly, grabbing my father's sleeve and pleading desperately, "Father, say something. I am innocent." I never did any of those things. They are all conspiring together to frame me, suddenly remembering something. She looked up at me with a venomous glare. Huilingi, how could you have known in advance? How did the regent just happen to obtain these witnesses? And how is it such a perfect coincidence that he came to your rescue? Father, don't you find all of this highly suspicious? It's obvious. Huilingi and the regent have been in cahoots all along. This is a deliberate plot they devised to frame me. Father was jolted by the reminder. He snapped his head up to look at me and slapped me across the face. Huilingi, I've taught you since childhood to live in harmony with your sister. Is this how you treat her? Putting on a show of sisterly affection while never truly treating a Yuan as your own flesh and blood? Fine, you're just as vicious and intolerant as your mother. I took the slap full force, making no move to dodge it, yet, I couldn't help but feel a chill in my heart. I looked at Hu Junshan once more. My eyes filled with disappointment. Lord Hua is truly most perceptive. If my mother were truly a jealous woman who could not tolerate the sight of her, Hu Yuan would never have survived to this day. Even Hu Junshan, who was elevated to his position entirely through my mother's support, might not have reached his current official rank on his own, but burning bridges, that became his signature move. Seeing me being beaten, Xiao Liangchen immediately shot to his feet. I shook my head at him. And only then did he rein in his expression, sit back down, and press his lips into a tight line. I turned slowly to face Hu Yuan. If you insist, dear sister, that I am wicked and have framed you with malice aforethought, the matter is simple. We need only have you examined to know the truth. Should the examination prove you are still a maiden, then I will gladly accept the blame for all these accusations and restore your good name. At these words, Hu Yuan's face grew even paler. Absolutely not, Huilingi, you are truly despicable. It was you who made me take your place that night to serve the young master of the Shao household. How dare you now claim I am still a virgin? Moreover, if I am subjected to such an examination, my reputation will be utterly ruined. Sister, are you truly determined to leave me with no way out? She wept with a pitiful, delicate beauty, but it only served to irritate me all the more. In my past life, when they falsely accused me, they had those people examine my virginity without a moment's hesitation. I gave a faint smile. Since my sister is unwilling, it's simple. Let's have the imperial physician examine her to see if there are any traces of her having taken an abortifacient. That will reveal the truth. I looked inquiringly at the Prince Regent. Xiao Liangchen nodded. Summon physician Zhang. Hu Yuan refused to let the imperial physician examine her, desperately trying to flee. Xiao Liangchen, however, took a hardline approach and ordered her to be tied up. In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the physician completed his diagnosis and reported with a grave expression, Your Highness the Regent, Lord Hua, there is no trace of any abortifacient in the second young lady's system, nor has there ever been any sign of a miscarriage. At those words, Father's face darkened. Now everyone knew that Hu Yuan was not only lying but also trying to frame me. Even if he wanted to shield her out of personal bias, it was no longer possible. The truth had finally come to light. Hu Yuan could hide it no longer. With a look of utter defeat, she collapsed to the floor. How could this happen? She looked up at me with venom in her eyes. Huilingi, why is it always you who comes out on top? Even after I've risked everything, I still lose to you. I gazed at her calmly, though my mind was racing. You won in our past life. You caused me to die a miserable death in the military camp, but were you truly happy? The year after I died, Hu Yuan fell out of Xiao Yuhing's favor. He took countless concubines, yet, the duke's household despised Hu Yuan for being a military courtesan's sister. When she fell ill, they wouldn't even call a doctor or give her medicine. In the end, they threw her into a beggar's den to await her death. Hu Yuan, the desires of the human heart are a bottomless pit. If you are never content, constantly comparing yourself to others, and resorting to harming others to get what you want, you are destined to never attain it. With that, I had said my piece and refused to speak to her any further. My mother, with a heart full of relief, took my hand and held me in a tight embrace. I always knew my daughter was a person of integrity, incapable of such underhanded schemes. To think it was all malicious slander from that vile creature. We treated her so well in the past, and this is how she repays our kindness, with such treachery. Just the other day, Mother said that once Father found a good match for Hu Yuan, she would be formally registered under Mother's name and married off with the status of a legitimate daughter. Now, there's no need for any of that. Xiao Yuhing looked at me with a face full of sorrow and remorse. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but then fell to his knees with a thud before me. Lingi, I'm sorry, I was wrong about you. I only just learned that you were falsely accused. Thanks to the Regent King, your name has been cleared. and my betrothed has been returned to me." He shuffled forward on his knees, trying to take my hand and beg for my forgiveness, but I coldly pulled away. "Lingy, are you still upset about the betrothal gifts?" Xiao Yuhing ventured cautiously. "I know I acted impulsively before, sending those gifts to Hui Yuan's courtyard, and I just smashed them to pieces in a fit of rage, but it doesn't matter. If you're not pleased, I'll have them prepared again. I promise the new ones will be infinitely more magnificent and splendid than before." I gave a cold, mocking laugh. "Brother-in-law, didn't you just resolve to marry my sister? Why are you still calling me your fiancé? That's a mistake. What's more, even though Hui Yuan isn't pregnant, the fact that you've been intimate means our engagement should have been annulled long ago." Xia Liangchen, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, was glaring daggers at him. Xiao Yuhing's eyes were bloodshot, still intent on pressing forward with his obsessive clinging, but he was cut off by the Prince Regent. "Lord Hua, I have come for 2 matters. The first is now concluded, so we should proceed to the second. What matter does your highness refer to?" Xia Liangchen turned and gave me a gentle glance before instructing the servants, "Bring them in." As the betrothal gifts were carried in, one chest after another, the courtyard was nearly overflowing. With a completely earnest expression, Xia Liangchen declared, "All of this is the betrothal gift, Lord Hua. I, the Prince Regent, formally present these betrothal gifts to request the hand of your daughter, Huolingi, to be my princess consort." The entire hall erupted in an uproar. Even my mother was utterly stunned. She had hoped for me to marry well, but never in her wildest dreams did she imagine I could become the princess consort to the regent. "Your highness, can you truly mean it?" Seeing the betrothal gifts, Xiao Yuhing was so consumed with envy that the veins on his forehead bulged. Hui Yuan's eyes were filled with bitter resentment as she saw the lavish array of betrothal gifts. To dissuade the regent from his intention to marry me, she even went so far as to publicly produce that crimson mandarin duck undergarment. "Your highness, you mustn't believe that woman, Huolingi. She has a silver tongue and could talk a crow into being white. Look at this. Not only has she been seducing you, but she has also been secretly carrying on with other royal guards. She lost her virtue long ago. Even this mandarin duck undergarment was dug up from another guard's quarters. If you marry her, you'll be wearing a cuckold's horns for the rest of your days." Xia Liangchen suddenly looked up at her, a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. "There's no need for second Miss Hua to trouble herself with this." He took my hand, his expression full of tenderness. "Forget about an affair. If Lingy takes a fancy to any other man, I, your prince, would not mind joining them in attending to my princess in her chambers." I nearly choked to death. Everyone exchanged bewildered glances, their expressions a mixture of shock and confusion. Even Hui Yuan, who was always looking for faults, turned pale and was left utterly speechless. News of the regent's marriage proposal that day spread like wildfire throughout the capital. Everyone joked that Xia Liangchen was a henpecked husband. Their jibes could even be heard in the teahouses and taverns. Just what kind of celestial beauty is this eldest daughter of the Hua family? She's so bewitching that the regent would even agree to share a wife with another man, just to marry her and make her his princess consort. Everyone says the regent is a living demon, never cracking a smile in court, but have you heard, when he came to propose, he actually smiled twice, and both times, it was for his future princess, sitting in the tea house. I overheard these words and flushed with embarrassment. I was just about to slip away, but Xia Liangchen stopped me. "Lingy, let this prince escort you home." I don't understand why he insisted on seeing me home. It wasn't until we reached the Hua residence that I realized his true target was my father. "Hua Jinshan, do you confess your crime?" Xia Liangchen produced a letter addressed to the military camp. After reading it, my mother's hands trembled uncontrollably, and large teardrops began to fall. "Hua Jinshan, you are a monster." My mother recognized the handwriting all too well. So, it turned out my father never truly intended for me to marry Xiao Yuhing. Not only did he force me to give up my husband to Hui Yuan, but he even sought to ruin my entire life, all to exact revenge on my mother. It was he who personally wrote to the military camp, instructing the generals to treat me as a camp follower. He also insisted that my life must be spared at all costs, if necessary, to protect Hui Yuan. They could even spread the news that Huolingi had been reduced to a military prostitute. Reading it, I felt a chill run through my limbs. Not a shred of hope for my father remained. Hua Jinshan feigned composure and flatly refused to admit anything. "The handwriting is a forgery. I would never confess to something I did not do. Moreover, Huolingi is my own daughter. How could she possibly be so cruel?" Xia Liangchen let out a cold snort. "That's because the one you love never actually died." Xia Liangchen gave a wave of his hand, and his subordinate ushered in a woman who was past her prime. both mother and I were stunned. She was the celebrated courtesan whom Hu Junshan had taken as a concubine all those years ago, and Hu Yuan's birth mother. To carry on an affair with a woman from an enemy state and conceal her identity. You went so far as to falsely claim she was dead. Hu Junshan, will you still not admit your guilt? The moment Hu Junshan saw the woman appear, his face went pale. Xia Liangchen's voice rang out once more. First, you murdered your own daughter, Hu Lingyi. Next, you planned to poison your lawful wife, and then replace her with this courtesan, Hu Junshan. That's quite the clever scheme you devised. He realized his entire scheme had been exposed. Hu Junshan finally panicked. He dropped to his knees with a thud. Your Highness, this matter must not be made public. In her youth, Yunyang was merely a celebrated courtesan. Though she hails from the Western Liang Kingdom, she is no enemy agent. You can explain all that to His Majesty. When my mother learned the truth, she was utterly heartbroken and wished she could cut Hu Junshan down on the spot. In the end, I was the one who held her back. But he is an imperial official, even if he is truly guilty. It is for the court to decide his fate. Before he was convicted, my mother wrote a letter of divorce. Only when it was thrown in Hu Junshan's face did a single tear of remorse fall. I'm sorry, but my mother didn't even give him a chance to speak. Soon after, Hu Junshan was executed for treason. By then, I was already married into the regent's household, no longer tainted by the Hu family's downfall. Gazing at Hu Junshan's face, now streaked with gray at the temples in his prison cell, I felt nothing, yet he pleaded with me, over and over, in desperate repentance. Hu Lingyi, your father was wrong. Your mother, she's always been so proud, and she loved me so fiercely. If I die, you must watch over her. Don't let her do anything rash. I let out a cold, scornful laugh. You'd better worry about yourself, Lord Hua. As for my mother, she remarried long ago. Hu Junshan stood there, frozen stiff as if struck by a thunderbolt, and with that, I turned and walked away. My mother never married him. I lied about that. He wronged my mother and me his whole life. He deserves to suffer a little more before he dies. I suddenly remembered that night at the Lantern Festival, when Xia Liangchen abruptly stopped and asked me, Lingyi, if I were to move against your father, would you hold it against me? I shrugged, offering a bleak smile. A father who would throw his own daughter to the wolves, to the army, no less, just to protect his concubine's child. Caring nothing for whether I lived or died, I'm better off without him. However you choose to proceed, I won't stand in your way. I trust you have your reasons for doing this. Xia Liangchen smiled. Good, then I won't show him any mercy. So that's when it was. Xia Liangchen had already obtained the evidence of his treason and defection. I was standing in the courtyard admiring the moon when I felt a weight on my shoulders. Xia Liangchen had draped a cloak over me. What are you thinking about? Standing here all alone, I keep thinking about where I'd be now if you hadn't come to save me that day. I remembered all the experiences from my past life, the miserable existence of being passed around and tormented in the military camp, with no one to hear my cries for help. After the truth about Hu Yuan falsely accusing me came to light, Mother asked me why I had confessed in the first place if I hadn't done such a thing. Earlier, I had deliberately sent my maid, Qiu Shuang, out to stall for time. It was all to seize a sliver of hope. In my past life, without any investigation, Father decisively sent me off to the military camp, leaving me no chance to escape, but I never expected it to go this smoothly. Thinking of this, I asked him, when Qiu Shuang said she was my maid, you just believed her. Why were you so quick to help me? Weren't you afraid I might be deceiving you? Xia Liangchen smiled and wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin gently nuzzling the crook of my neck. In my past life, I searched for you for so many years, never imagining you'd be in a place like that. In this life, no matter what, I will protect you. Xia Liangchen has been reborn as well. I remember how frantically he searched for me in our previous life. In the end, seeing my mangled and bloodied form, he arranged my funeral and burial, and finally took his own life before my grave. Only then did I realize the profound hidden love he had always carried. All of it stemmed from that brief, fleeting exchange of glances in the hunting grounds long ago, a single glance that spanned an eternity. As I looked at him, my eyes slowly welled up with tears. Thank you, I mean it. Xia Liangchen didn't say a word. He just held me tight, keeping me company as we admired the flowers and the moon in the night. He gave me boundless warmth against the cold wind. Later, Xia Liangchen issued a direct prohibition. All camp followers were to be sent away from the military camp, and no women were to be allowed henceforth. Anyone who dared to defy this order by secretly harboring women in the camp for their own amusement would, in accordance with military law, be subject to execution along with all other participants. For a time, the order took immediate effect. No one dared to send women to the military camp for discipline ever again. Meanwhile, the love story of the regent and his princess consort became a celebrated tale throughout the capital. Story 2, my sister was violated by bandits. To save her life, I brought her with me when I married into my husband's family, never imagining she would become pregnant with the bandit's child. After I married into the Shin household, my husband spent every night in my courtyard, but once I became pregnant, he suddenly turned cold towards me, showering my sister with affection instead and treating the child in her womb as his own. When the time came for my delivery, the midwife pinned my legs down with all her might. My child was smothered to death inside my own womb. As I lay there utterly spent, my husband stood before my bed, cradling my sister's child in his arms. The mistress has died from hemorrhage after giving birth to a son, he declared. To ensure the young master is properly cared for, concubine Yi shall be elevated to the position of principal wife. Shinji looked at me with icy detachment. You should be grateful, he said, grateful that I preserved your reputation, that I haven't let it be known how you spent your nights frolicking with the guards. Let this bastard child descend to the underworld with you. Consider it a final act of motherly devotion, all thanks to my dear sister, she said with a venomous sweetness. If you weren't so kind-hearted and gullible, I would never have entered the Shin household so easily. Now that I am Madam Shin, I really must thank you, sister. My eyes nearly burst from their sockets with rage. So, the so-called intruder was none other than Shinji himself, a thief crying stop thief. The 15th day of the second lunar month, the flower festival, I got separated from my elder sister while we were out sightseeing. My sister did not return for a long time. Mother sent the maids and servants to look for her, but to no avail. By evening, Master Shen had brought my sister back to the Yi residence in his carriage. My sister, her clothes torn, clung to Mother and wept pitifully, a heartbreaking sight. Mother took one look and understood everything. My sister and I do not share the same mother. Her birth mother was Father's concubine, who passed away shortly after giving birth to her. It was Mother who raised her as her own. Now, with this scandal, if word gets out, Yi Yuner will be sent to the family temple to live out her days in solitude. After raising her as a daughter for so many years, even without a blood tie, their bond as mother and child ran deep. How could Mother bear to see Yi Yuner come to such a fate? If you trust me, mother-in-law, you could let the second Miss marry into the Shin residence alongside Feng Hua. While the Shin family is not immensely wealthy, it is a secure and stable home. Shinji made the suggestion at just the right moment, and Mother promptly decided that Yi Yuner would marry into the Shin family with me. We've imposed on you, son-in-law. Mother held Shinji and Yi Yuner's hands, completely unaware of whether she had wronged me. I wasn't surprised. To present herself as gentle and virtuous to Father, Mother always treated others better than she treated me. In the past, I would bend over backwards in everything, just hoping for a second glance from Mother. Looking back now, I was such a fool. I watched the despicable pair put on their little act in silence, waiting until they'd hastily settled matters before leisurely speaking up. Sister, how did you happen to meet Shinji while you were out? Where exactly were you when the bandits attacked? How many were there? What did they look like? I thoroughly humiliated Yi Yun right in front of the maids in the room. But given that she could stoop to such a sordid affair with Shinji, her skin was clearly thick enough to brush off my petty provocations. Seeing my displeasure, Mother quickly stepped forward to play the peacemaker. For your sister's sake, and for the reputation of the Yi family, I agreed. The stage was already set. If I refused, how would the players perform their show for me? Besides, there was something in the Shin household that I wanted. In the 3rd month, Shinji and I were wed. Yi Yuner was carried into the Shin residence in a small, pink sedan chair. On our wedding night, Shinji, holding a wine pot, plied me with drink, cup after cup. I secretly poured all the wine into my sleeve. Seeing me unconscious, he summoned a guard, gave some instructions, and then left. As the guard reached for my collar, I seized his hand. Only when he saw my clear, unwavering gaze fixed upon him did he realize something was wrong. Trembling, he knelt down and pleaded, "Spare me, my lady. If you want to live, you'll do exactly as I say. Don't try anything clever. Shinji wouldn't risk offending the Yi family for your sake." I left him to his own devices in the outer chamber for half the night before sending him away. Early the next morning, Shinji, reeking of cloying perfume, crept into my bed and pretended as if nothing had happened. He had just come out of Yi Yuner's room. The smell sickened me, and the very thought of it turned my stomach. I pretended to stir slowly from sleep. Time to get up. I must pay my respects to Father and Mother today. After breakfast, Shinji and I left the house together. No sooner had I stepped out of the courtyard gate than Yi Yuner hurried over. Did you sleep well last night, sister? I lowered my head to stifle a laugh. Shinji had spent the entire night with Yuyuner, leaving a fake groom to fool me. Seeing me now, she couldn't help but want to show off a little. Yet she couldn't reveal the truth. Her insinuating manner made her look like a complete buffoon. You're in such a hurry, sister. Have you come to pay your respects to me? Not wanting to listen to her veiled boasting, I changed the subject. Yuyuner shuddered, clearly taken aback that I would demand she perform the concubine's rites. Mother treated her exceptionally well. Within the household, her food, clothing, and allowances were identical to mine, to please mother. I never made an issue of it. Such indulgence made her forget she was merely a daughter born of a concubine. Little sister, you still enjoy teasing me so. Yuyuner's expression stiffened. Of course, she would never stoop to presenting herself as a mere concubine in my presence. Once she entered the Shin residence alongside me, she likely already saw the role of the lady of the house as hers for the taking. Let's go. We mustn't keep mother waiting. Shinji's voice cut through, interrupting the silent battle of wills between Yuyuner and myself. Madam, you're here at last. The mistress has been asking for you for quite some time. As soon as I arrived at my mother-in-law's courtyard, the matron waiting at the gate warmly took my hand and ushered me inside. Mr. and Mrs. Shin were seated in the main hall. I accepted the tea offered by a maid and served it to them as a gesture of respect. My marriage to Shinji was arranged by our families when we were just children. All these years, my mother-in-law knew that while I lived safely in the household, I was not at ease. She had been urging Shinji to marry me quickly. In my past life, after I entered the Shin residence, she treated me as dearly as her own daughter. I was chatting warmly with mother, while Shinji stood to the side with Yuyuner on his arm, their eyes speaking volumes to each other. And who is this beside Jir? I was just about to reply when Shinji suddenly pulled me backward. I stumbled, nearly losing my balance. Mother, this is Yuyuner, Fenghua's elder sister. She married me alongside Fenghua and is now my concubine. Seeing me almost fall, mother looked displeased with Shinji. After hearing his words, her displeasure deepened, and her tone grew sharper. While our Shin family may not be a great noble house, we still have our proprieties. When a wife pays respects to her in-laws, it is not for a concubine to push herself forward. You were once Hua's sister, but now you are a concubine. You must know your place, observe the rules, and not disrupt the proper order of precedence. I know my mother-in-law is helping me establish my authority, and I'm delighted. I could do without a husband, but I must cling tightly to my mother-in-law's favor. For all its faults, the Shin household has one truly excellent matriarch. If Shinji wants Yuyuner, then I shall choose a mother for myself. A fair trade, no loss at all. Shinji sent over some calming incense, instructing me to light it when I go to bed at night. I ordered my most trusted maid to buy a similarly scented incense to pass off as the real thing. That guard still came every night, and every night I would have him amuse himself in the outer chamber. Life was quite comfortable. I no longer had to compromise on everything as I did back in my maiden home. I am no longer as easygoing as I was in my past life. My mother said a concubine must know her place, so I took her words to heart. Every day at the break of dawn, Yuyuner had to wait in my courtyard to attend to my morning toilette. Even Shinji, who spent his nights entangled with her, was forced to rise early and shuttle between our two courtyards. Of the four of us, I was the only one who could get a decent night's sleep. Perhaps the torment had become unbearable, for within a few days, Yuyuner knelt before me, begging for mercy. Yuyuner was pregnant. We called for a physician. After taking her pulse, he confirmed she was already 2 months along. Seeing that I remained silent for a long time, Yuyuner threw herself forward and clung tightly to my leg. Sister, you have always been the kindest soul. Please spare the child in my womb. My husband knows it is not of the Shin family's bloodline. In the future, it will never contend with your own children for the family's inheritance. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. In my past life, you killed both me and my child, wiping the slate clean and leaving not a single trace of my bloodline behind. How could they contend with ghosts? A faint smile touched the corner of my lips. Yuyuner was absolutely right. I have always been the most tender-hearted. It's just that this child, branded a bastard before it's even born, will find it terribly difficult to ever claim legitimacy, as long as you don't regret it. One morning, he suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist. Fenghua, we've been sharing a bed for so long, yet there's still no sign of good news from you. He placed his hand on my lower abdomen, gently caressing it, outwardly tender. He was secretly plotting how to trade my life to secure happiness for the one he truly loved. Yuyuner is already 2 months pregnant. If I don't conceive soon, his entire plan will be ruined. I leaned into his embrace, idly playing with the strands of my own hair that had fallen over my shoulder. Could it be that the child in concubine Ye's womb is not my husband's. The breathing of the person behind me hitched slightly. How could that be? You must still be half asleep, Feng Hua. He dressed and left the house in a fluster. So Shinji could be afraid too. Afraid I would be the death of his child. In my last life, when I was in labor, I was terrified too, terrified my child would die, but in the end, he died. Auntie, grandmother is furious. Yi Mingyu ran out from her mother's courtyard and, taking me by the hand, led me inside. Yi Mingyu is the son of Shinji's elder brother. Years ago, Shinji's elder brother and his wife passed away unexpectedly, leaving behind only a son. The Shin family doted on the boy immensely these past few days. I've been visiting mother's courtyard frequently. Even this little sticky rice dumpling could tell how close we've become. I picked Mingyu up and carried him with me into mother's courtyard. Along the way, a maid who was in the know filled me in on most of the details. Mother found out about Yunarye's pregnancy. The timing doesn't add up. Shinji wanted to give the child a proper name, but mother forbade it. And the two of them started arguing. After all the years I've raised you, you're still this foolish, rushing to be taken for a fool. If I hadn't found out, would you have handed over the entire Shin family fortune to that bastard child in the future? Mother pointed a trembling finger at Shinji, shaking with rage. Seeing me arrive, Shinji immediately swung a slap at me. You're the one who's been whispering poison in mother's ear. I let myself fall to the ground. My face was fine, but my foot hurt. I've sprained my ankle. I looked at my mother. My face contorted in a grimace and my eyes brimming with tears. From this moment on, I am the delicate, pitiable little flower. That's right. I was the one who leaked the information, but would I ever admit it? Not a chance. Only a fool would admit that. Auntie, Mingyu, who had been hiding behind the door, rushed out to shield me when she saw I was being hit. A flurry of hands helped me, somewhat clumsily, into a chair. I buried my face in my handkerchief, seemingly weeping bitterly. Since marrying into the Shin family, I've gotten along splendidly with mother-in-law. In fact, I've spent more time with her than with Shinji himself. Whenever I visited my mother's courtyard, I would always bring along some little trinkets to give to the maids there. After being neglected so often, I learned how to ingratiate myself. To put it nicely, it was a way of winning people over. My efforts paid off, as most of the people in that household ended up on my side. Mother backhanded a slap across Shinji's face. Not only has Hwara never gossiped behind your back in my presence, but even if she had said something, she would have had a reason to say it. Mother was so furious she could barely breathe. Nanny Wang helped her to the daybed and patted her back to soothe her. Ever since you married Hwara, how many days have passed without you coming to pay your respects or speak with me? It's only thanks to Hwara's pity for this old woman that she comes to see me every day. A real man can't spend his days cooped up in the inner courtyard. Now that he's married, he should focus on building his career. So now I find out he's taken in some other man's bastard and is rushing to play the fool, raising another's child as his own, and now he dares to talk back to me for that loose woman. I wish I'd never had a son like you. He knelt before his mother. Mother, the child Yunar carries is mine. It's your own flesh and blood, your grandson. Get out. The teacup shattered into pieces right in front of Shinji, splashing hot tea all over him. What a sorry sight he was. Shenlang, are you alright? Hearing the news, Yunar rushed over and knelt beside Shinji. Mother, she pleaded, the child I carry is Shenlang's. We are deeply in love, and this child was conceived before the wedding. Sister, didn't you say you were assaulted by bandits while traveling, and that's how you became with child? I stared at Yunar's belly in utter shock and devastation. If you had only told me earlier that you and my sister were truly in love, I would never have competed with her. What would it matter if I yielded the position of principal wife to her? Shinji's eyes lit up. Hwara, do you truly mean that? Mother, Hwara has agreed. Shinji reached out to clutch at his mother's robe. Silence. I told you to visit the Yi residence more often to foster a bond with Hwara. I never imagined you were a man with such grand designs of your own. If you have your own plans, what need is there to bring Hwara into this family? What need is there for a mother like me? The table shook under the force of her pounding fist. Guards, throw them both out. Out. Our humble Shin residence is too small a temple to house such esteemed Buddhas. Shinji and Yunar were driven out of the Shin residence. Mother and father were married young, deeply devoted to each other, and shared a harmonious bond for their entire lives. The eldest son was also a man of deep passion, who held love in the highest, most sacred regard. The mother could not accept that her younger son was such a man. When this happened, mother held me close and wept uncontrollably. I had hoped to bring you into our home to cherish you, but I never imagined I gave birth to such a heartless, ungrateful wretch. After Shinji left the matter, the light faded from mother's eyes. I know mother's heart still aches for Shinji. Sending him away this time was just to teach him a lesson. After all, he is her own son, he'll be back sooner or later. Since Shinji's return to the Shin Manor is inevitable, I might as well be the one to broach the subject. Those who suffer injustice yet bear it in silence always tug at the heartstrings more. Mother, I'm sure my husband has had time to think things over these past few days. Perhaps I should go and ask him to come home. Mother held my hand, her grip trembling slightly. You've suffered so much. Huar, those words felt terribly familiar. Back in my maiden home, I was often the one who had to bear the grievances. If something is in short supply, I can go without, but my siblings must have it. If I make a mistake, it is a failure in my duty as the firstborn daughter, and I must be punished. If my sisters make a mistake, to be fair, I am always punished alongside them. Mother always confides in me about how difficult her life in the household is, urging me to be understanding, and she always holds me after a punishment, saying, my poor Huar. Mother's love always felt like a soaked cotton padded jacket. Wearing it was cold, but not wearing it was just as cold. I could sense that my mother's love for me was different from my grandmother's. I was happy, yet I felt guilty for my own scheming. But as long as Shinji remained in the manor for a single day, I would have to be on my guard against him. Fine, if he comes back and stops his nonsense. Even if he and Yuner burn the whole manor down, as long as they don't bring the trouble to me or mother, I'll simply look the other way. Let it be for mother's sake, and for my own conscience. After being driven out of the manor, Shinji had nowhere to go. He now lives in a small townhouse the Yi family purchased in the city. As I was leaving, mother instructed me, tell him this, if he sends Yuner back to the Yi family estate, we'll let the matter rest, otherwise, the Shin family will disown him as a son. Mingyu whined and insisted on going with me. That slap from the other day really did scare him. Grandmother, I want to go with auntie. Second uncle is so fierce, what if he hits her again? This little 4-year-old bundle of joy said something that could truly warm your heart. 4th-5th Lane was a bit far from the Shin residence. The carriage rocked and swayed for a good half of the day before arriving at a manor. Hearing the commotion, Shinji emerged with Yi Yuner in tow. Yi Yuner offered a graceful curtsy. You've come, sister. Have you come to take Shin Lang back to the manor? Shinji gave a disdainful snort and turned his face away. I chose not to argue with him. This time, when you return, please do not cause mother any more worry. Yi Fenghua, who are you putting on this pathetic act for? If it weren't for you, mother would have long since allowed me to marry Yuner. All of this trouble stems from you. With that, he shoved me aside and, taking Yi Yuner by the hand, made to board the carriage. Grandmother said only second uncle is to return, Mingyu called out. Poking her head from the carriage behind, her voice was soft, but the carriages were close enough for Shinji to hear clearly. Yi Yuner, who was about to step into the carriage, dabbed at her tears with a handkerchief. It's my fault for being an eyesore to my sister. You should go back first. Shin Lang, I can bear a little hardship for your sake, but it pains me that our unborn child is already disliked by grandmother. Yuner, this isn't your fault. It's all because of this vile woman whispering poison in mother's ear. Yi Fenghua, how can you be so jealous? What have you been telling mother now? You drove me away these past few days, so mother is surely displeased with you. Do you think shifting all the blame onto Yuner will let you rest easy? The surrounding commoners were gradually drawn to the commotion, seizing the opportunity of the growing crowd. He brazenly claimed that I had driven him away, when in truth, he had been thrown out by his own mother. If I don't return home today, just see how you'll explain yourself to mother. If you've come to your senses, and agree today, in front of everyone, to let Yuner be my co-wife, your equal in status, then I will be magnanimous. I'll forgive your past actions and return home with you. Shinji raised an eyebrow, sat down on the steps, and looked at me as if he were bestowing the greatest favor upon me. I gave him a bright smile. And he was taken aback for a moment. I suppose he must have thought I was about to give in. Where did this madman come from? How dare he block my path in broad daylight? Nanny, go and report this to the authorities at once. Shinji looked around. Apart from him and Yi Yuner, there were only me, Shin Mingyu, and a few nannies present. You madwoman. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Nanny Wang, who stood by my side. Why yes, that's exactly it. Our lady was just out for a stroll today when these two accosted her right here, probably trying to extort some money. As she spoke, she pulled a purse from her waist, took out a few taels of loose silver, glanced at Shinji with a moment's hesitation, and then flung the silver pieces at Yi Yuner's face. Consider this our lady doing a good deed. Everyone, hurry along now, lest they try to swindle you too. Seeing that Shinji was indeed an unfamiliar face, the onlookers quickly scattered. Seizing the moment while Shinji was still processing this situation, we made our escape by carriage. In the carriage, Nanny Wang was filled with a deep sense of melancholy. Thank heavens for the mistress's quick wit. If she hadn't tugged my sleeve in time, I truly wouldn't have caught on. And the young master, really, couldn't he have said whatever it was at home? Why did he have to speak out in front of all those people? He was a child I watched grow up. How did he turn out like this? The gossip stirred by Shinji's words would be the ruin of the Shin household. Nanny Wang had, after all, been by the mistress's side since her youth. She had witnessed the mistress and the master build their fortune from nothing. The Shin estate was their life's work, and she would not let such a thing come to pass. Shinji was clever enough, I'll give him that. He knew his chances of convincing me through discussion were slim, so he tried to use public opinion to pressure me. What he didn't count on was me playing an unexpected move and turning the tables on him. Grandmother, second uncle refuses to come back. He even asked aunt for money. As soon as the carriage came to a halt, Mingyu had the servant lift him down, then scampered off, toddling toward his mother's courtyard. After speaking, he even glanced back at me, his face a picture of someone seeking praise. That's technically correct, but it feels like a stretch from the actual truth. However, it suits me just fine. Nanny Wang recounted the whole story from beginning to end. Hearing him use the Shin family's reputation to force my submission, Mother seemed to accept his decision not to return. If he doesn't want to come back, so be it. As long as he hasn't died out there, my days are quite pleasant, spent chatting with Mother, watching Mingyu study and practice her calligraphy, and listening to the maids gossip about the goings-on outside the estate. Shinji taught me a harsh lesson. Showing mercy to an enemy is nothing but cruelty to oneself. That day, a maid was telling me how the son of Squire Liu got drunk and was dumped at a male brothel. Just as I was getting into the story, another maid rushed in, exclaiming, "Madam, it's terrible. There are rumors spreading everywhere about you having an affair with one of the estate guards. Let's go to Mother's quarters. We're about to witness quite the spectacle." It's obvious without a second thought that Shinji was the one who spread this. I thought once he left the estate, I could just forget he ever existed, yet here he is, practically begging me to seek revenge. I had just arrived at my mother's courtyard when a servant came to announce that Lady Yi had arrived. Mother didn't come alone, she was followed by Shinji and Yi Yuner. The room was packed with a crowd of people. Mother looked at me and asked, "What's going on here?" Before I could say a word, Shinji's wailing voice came through. "Mother, she's deceived you. She puts on a show of virtue and filial piety in public, but in private, she's nothing but a wanton woman. Now, the whole town knows she's carrying on with one of the estate guards. She schemed to drive her own son out of the house, all to seize control of the Shin estate with that lover of hers." Mother frowned upon hearing this. Even I, who'd been overwhelmed by recent events, would frown at such news, let alone my elderly mother. Seeing that no one else spoke up, Mother came over, took me by the arm, and pleaded earnestly, "Huar, apologize to your husband. You are in the wrong this time. Even if you and Shinsu have had a disagreement, you mustn't embarrass him like this in front of others." "Mother, do you really believe I could do such a disgraceful thing? You're pinning this vile accusation on your own daughter before the truth is even known. Am I truly your own flesh and blood?" I wrenched my arm free from her grasp. Mother seemed taken aback that I, who had always been so obedient, had learned to fight back. She stared at me, utterly at a loss. "Enough, Ashang, as a mother, you've handled this poorly. How can you be so quick to assume Huar is at fault before hearing the full story? Huar, I've watched you grow up. Tell your mother, are those rumors about you true or not?" I knelt down. "Mother, I have never done the things my husband spoke of." "Good, I believe you." "Yifeng Hua, what kind of sweet talk have you been feeding Mother?" Shinji suddenly rose from the ground. "I was going to spare you some dignity, but it seems you won't admit your guilt until you're staring at your own coffin." With 3 sharp slaps, a guard was brought into the hall, bound and under escort. Mother, I would never have dared to return and confront her without proof. This is the man, the adulterer who has been sharing Yifenghua's bed night after night. I looked at the disheveled man. It was the same person who had tried to climb into my bed that night. Is that all Shinji is capable of? Thinking you can defeat me with these tricks I saw through ages ago? That's pure delusion. Mother's gaze turned icy as she stared at the guard kneeling before her. Choose your next words carefully. If you're falsely accusing the lady of the Shin manor, your life won't be enough to atone for it. It is true, this humble servant did visit the lady's courtyard at night. Looking up, I could see the joy evident on Shinji and Yi Yuner's faces, but the next moment, the guard's words plunged them into utter despair. "Please understand, madam, I did go there, but I never overstepped my bounds. On the day of your wedding, it was the young master who got you drunk and summoned me. though I'm not an educated man, I know full well how important a woman's virtue is. I slept in the outer chamber for half the night and then left. Everyone fears death, and this guard is no exception. If he slanders me by going along with Shinji's words, not only would my mother not spare him, but neither would I. He must be weighing his options for survival in his own mind. You think your denial is enough? This guard is in cahoots with you. To save his own skin, he's bound to take your side. I often find Shinji's train of thought utterly incomprehensible, perhaps because I'm not foolish enough. If I recall correctly, we have yet to consummate our marriage since our wedding day. I turned and knelt before my mother-in-law. This daughter-in-law begs to prove her innocence. This incident thoroughly enraged mother. He has no understanding of how difficult it is for a woman to live a peaceful life in this world. A single careless word from his lips could cast me into the abyss. My own mother, who had conveniently made herself scarce while I was being wronged, finally stepped forward. But this time, standing up isn't for my sake, my dear Huar, for the sake of peace in our household. You must endure this. Spouses may quarrel at night, but harmony returns by morning. You and Jier still have a life to build together. Don't let this become an ugly spectacle. Mother, he's driving me to the brink. If these things truly come to pass, do you think you would show mercy and spare your daughter's life? Mother, I will die. I wrenched my hand free from mother's grasp. Her sharp nails left several scratches on the back of my hand. No, it can't be. Huar, these things haven't happened yet. My other mother came over as well. Aishang. Have you lost your senses? Huar is your own daughter. It's all my fault. When he was a child, I saw how pure and lovely he was, and I got it into my head to have him marry Jier. I kept pestering you until you agreed to the match. I know how difficult it is for you to manage that household of yours. You're always sacrificing your own daughter for the sake of your so-called family harmony. It pains me to see, but I couldn't say much. I just wanted to bring her into our home early so I could dote on her properly. Who would have thought we'd end up raising such an ungrateful wretch? Since you're still clinging to your damned family harmony, take this worthless creature and that Yuna with you. Don't sully the grounds of my Shin manor. If you push Huar away, there will be others willing to take her in. I froze on the spot. I knew mother was good to me, but I never imagined she truly cherished me as her own daughter. Since Shinji doesn't know how to appreciate what he has, he can't blame me for taking it away. Mother was left flustered and at a loss for words. But for all these years, it's always been this way. As long as Huar endures a little hardship, everything gets resolved. Yuner finds a place. Jier returns to the manor to be filial to you. Huar, she would only have to suffer a slight grievance. That's all. Wei Shang. Let me make this perfectly clear today. Huar is now married into the Shin family, and from this day forward, she is a daughter of the Shin household. As for Shinji, if you're so fond of him, take him back to your Yi estate. Whether you want him as a son or a son-in-law, that's none of my concern. For what felt like the 100th time, Shinji was thrown out of the manor. This time, however, he didn't end up in that little cottage again. Mother brought them back to the Yi family home. She pinned all the blame on me. She couldn't understand why I was unwilling to just swallow my pride and let it go, when a little humiliation on my part would have settled everything. Instead, I had to make such an ugly scene. Once again, the only masters left in the household were my mother, Mingyu, and me. This time, mother showed no hesitation regarding Shinji. She instructed the gatekeeper that if Shinji dared to return, he was to be driven out with clubs. From now on, that person was no longer part of the Shin family. I have to say, it's good to be a daughter of the Shin household. What a charmed life Shinji used to lead. No need to wait on a man. I can just drink tea, admire the flowers, and stir up a little trouble on the side. Shinji has simply grown too accustomed to a smooth life, unable to recognize the blessings right in front of him. Someone this arrogant deserves to be taught a lesson. My decades in the Yi manor were not spent in vain. Every move Shinji and Yuner make is reported directly to me. I thought Shinji would keep a low profile at the Yi residence, but instead, he's living more lavishly than he ever did at the Shin house. He's taken over my courtyard, ordering servants around as if he were the legitimate young master of the Yi family. The messenger was sweating with anxiety. Miss, you must return at once. If you delay any longer, your husband might forget that you are his rightful wife. I happily savored the grapes my mother had sent over. This comfortable life of mine has only just begun. Only a fool would go and ask him to come back. But after all this scheming against me, simply throwing him out would be letting him off far too lightly. Do you remember the maid named Xiaotsue who was in my chamber before I married the young master? I remember. She offered herself to become the young master's concubine, and you sent her away to the country estate. Have her brought back. Concubine Yi is with child and mustn't be overburdened. The young master will naturally need someone to attend to him. Xiaotsui was a woman of considerable skill, and it wasn't long before she had lured Shinji into her bed. Yi Yun'er was furious, wailing and shrieking throughout the Yi residence, demanding the woman be thrown out. Shinji blocked her, refusing to allow it. The two scuffled, and Shinji, mindful of her pregnancy, ended up with his face scratched by her. In the past, when such things happened, I was always the one who ended up wronged. Matters that could be settled with me and during a little grievance were handled with effortless ease by mother. It's just a shame that Yi Yun'er isn't me. What man doesn't stray? Just bear with it and it'll pass. Mother thought the Yi Yun'er she had doted on for years would endure humiliation for her sake, just as I had, but how could she, who had scarcely known hardship, ever listen to such talk? And here I thought you cared for me, mother. The moment father is away, you start throwing your weight around as the lady of the house. A child not of your own blood will never truly be your own. This heart of yours can never be warmed. The usually quiet Yi manner was uncharacteristically lively for once. A pity I couldn't see it for myself. The commotion at the manor only lasted a short while. I heard from the Yi manor servants that Shinji and Yi Yun'er have reconciled. Though Chui'er still follows Shinji, she's merely a figurehead now, utterly eclipsed by Yi Yun'er. I knew they were probably hatching some scheme again, but I never imagined they could be so utterly depraved. Mingyu slipped out of the manor in secret. Mingyu has been gone for a whole day. Mingyu is missing. All the servants in the manor went out to search, and Shinji, bringing Yi Yun'er with him, came to confront her at her door. Yi Fenghua, I entrusted the Shin manor to you. Is this how you treat my nephew? You can't even keep an eye on a child. Perhaps you should step aside for someone more capable. Shinji, you must be held accountable for your own words and your own actions. Bring Mingyu back now, and there may still be a chance to set things right. Although I was convinced Mingyu's disappearance was connected to him, I was frustrated by the lack of evidence for the time being. Shinji seemed utterly confident that Mingyu would not return. Supporting the visibly pregnant Yi Yun'er, he sidled up to mother. Don't fret, mother, you may have lost one grandson, but here's another, and if you want more in the future, grandsons, granddaughters, whatever you wish, just say the word, and I'll give them to you. Mother, I cried out. He had left her so breathless with anger, holding my mother as she slumped in her chair. I nearly broke into tears. Nanny Wang, fetch a physician. Quickly, her voice was frail, trembling as two words escaped her lips. You unfilial son. Mother, please, say no more. Our whole family must rely on my husband from now on. If you keep the peace, our days ahead will be easier. Yi Yun'er, one hand resting on her pregnant belly and the other clutching Shinji's sleeve, wore a timid expression, yet her words only poured oil on the fire. Most of the servants had left the manor, leaving the hall sparsely populated. Through a crack, I saw two figures in pink approaching from a distance. My hand moved faster than my mind. I raised it and swung down with force. If I didn't slap her now, I'd never get another chance. With a sharp crack, Shinji spun around and collapsed into Yi Yun'er's arms. You should be grateful you're with child. Otherwise, this slap would have landed on your face. Shinji covered his face and cried, Yi Fenghua, I am the only male heir of the Shin family now. How dare you treat me like this? I'll divorce you. My, what a lively scene. A voice rang out from behind Shinji. Everyone turned to look and saw an unfamiliar maid holding a little girl by the hand. Nanny Wang shoved the obstructing Shinji aside and carried the little girl to the matriarch. It's the young master, madam. The young master has returned. What are you doing here? Shinji, a bright red handprint on his face, interrogated the maid. I heard the young master Shin was missing, so I bought him and brought him back. Bought him, you may not know this, madam, but when the young master fell into that trafficker's hands, he suffered terribly. His hands and feet were bound, and they even dressed him in a little girl's pink gown. They said a client had paid a hefty sum to have him sold far, far away. I paid a small fortune to buy him back. That silver wasn't spent for nothing. The maid approached me, her face a picture of grievance. Miss, I've missed you so much. You send me off to the estate at the slightest disagreement, then beckon me back with a crook of your finger, ordering me about left and right. I jest. Chui'er, you've worked hard. We'll talk about that later, I said, calming the maid who was ready to list her grievances. I then turned to Shinji. Shinji, you are truly ruthless. How dare you spout such nonsense? I had nothing to do with selling her. Are you going to blame me for your own failure to watch Mingyu, letting her get snatched by traffickers? Shinji shouted at me, his neck stiff with defiance, yet a flicker of guilt shone in his eyes. Seeing the accusatory stares from all the servants in the household, he could bear it no longer. He rushed in front of Chui'er, raising his hand. You wretched woman, slap, a sharp Crisp slap rang out. Shinji clutched her face and collapsed onto the floor of the hall. Chuyer rubbed my reddened hand, her face full of concern, while I was secretly delighted inside. The quick-handed get to enjoy the thrill of striking first. Grandmother, Mingyu, with her little legs pumping, rushed into her mother's arms, who was so heartbroken that tears streamed down her face. You're home, that's all that matters, you're home. You vile creature, how dare you sell your own flesh and blood? Your nephew, what's next? Will you throw this old woman out when I displease you? Well, now that Mingyu has returned, we have a son in the house again. This family is finally whole. Guards, drive these two lawless, unfilial wretches out. From this day forth, they are forbidden to set foot in the Shin manor. Mother's heart had truly hardened this time. Shinji was completely stripped of his status as master of the Shin household. All was well within the manor. Though Chuyer had become increasingly clingy, she whimpers all day long about sacrificing herself for me, making all my little maidservants marvel at her unwavering loyalty and courage. What, didn't Shinji use his own incense on himself? Oh, miss, if I say it, it might tarnish your noble image, but that incense truly works wonders. Even the stable master Wang says it's effective and begged me to give him some. Ahem. I always said my Chuyer was clever, indeed. When the young mistress sent me to the estate to bide my time, I knew I had a great task ahead of me, but I heard you spent your days on that estate flirting with the tenant farmers' daughters. They'd been coming to me with complaints. That was just practice. Look at Shinji. Wasn't he completely smitten with me at first? Yi Yinner gave birth. Shinji, with his wife and child in tow, demanded the gatekeeper let him in. What young master? The mistress has made it clear. She says her fate is bitter. She bore two sons, one died for his country, leaving behind a young heir, the other succumbed to a vile disease, cutting off the line. The Shin household now has only one young mistress. Mingyu pulled me behind the door to peek. The three of us living well together is what matters most. Chuyer, her mouth still full of grapes, mumbled indistinctly, right, how could we forget our little Chuyer, the four of us,